move ahead, call this meeting to order. The Board of Directors special meeting for the General Fund Budget Workshop, Thursday, June 25, 2026. Are there any introductions to be made? I don't think so. I think everyone in the room is employed by this organization. Well, that's your problem. That's your problem. I would like to compliment Joanna on representing us so well at the California Habitat Conservation Conference in San Diego this week. And she even, on her exhibit, she even showed a frog. So, yeah, she knew if she put it up there, I'd be happy. So, are there any, we don't need any introductions. Let's move into the public comment area. Members of the public may address the board regarding any item within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. However, no action may be taken on off-agenda items except as authorized by law. Each speaker is limited to a maximum of 3 minutes. Mr. Clerk, do we have any requests to speak?
Mr. President, I have not received any requests to speak, and to the public that's present online or in person, if you wish to provide a public comment, please speak up and raise your hand to be recognized. Nothing seen, sir.
All right. Thank you very much. First item on our agenda under discussions, item 3.1 is to review the proposed general fund budget for fiscal year 2026, 2027. And this will be brought to us initially by our executive director, our chief executive officer and general manager, Heather Dyer.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. This is our annual general fund workshop. This is intended to be a working meeting where the board feel free to jump in as I'm giving the presentation. I'm going to give the presentation, but we have Wen and Cindy, Joanna here to answer questions. Kelly on the external affairs things, Greg on Headwaters resilience, and also a lot of geotechnical things that we're doing. So please feel free to interrupt me. If the board so desired, we could go line by line. I'm assuming like in past years, you don't want to do that, but feel free to jump in on there if you have a favorite line there somewhere. We have set it up as a presentation, kind of just going over the general high level things and some particular subjects that usually come up in this meeting every year. And we have saved, it doesn't go exactly in order of the packet in terms of what I'm presenting, mainly just because there's a couple special items that I want to save for last, especially sponsorships, which we usually have a lot of discussion on. So I'll come back to that at the end. First, I just want to give a summary just to kind of lay the groundwork on where we are on our general fund budget. We have anticipated or estimated the revenues in the fiscal year 26-27 to be around $53,891,100. Although I do want to point out that this is not a known calculation. This is based on several assumptions, which I will go over a little bit more. We have estimated our general fund expenses to be $51,115,800. Again, this is kind of in the broad context, if we got everything done that we want to get done, in terms of projects, moving things forward, infrastructure that needs to be built, things like that, then we would land around this number. But again, as often has happened in the past, we don't spend all of the expenses that have been budgeted for. And so just keep that in mind as well. There is also a allocation of reserves that are required by our WIFIA loan in the amount of $2,890,000. We did that, and I'll talk about that again a little bit more related to the WIFIA loan, but that is a requirement of our Enhanced Recharge Phase 1B loan that we got through the EPA and the WIFIA program. And that is in order to basically smooth out the revenue over the course of 10 years where we had to use an assumption related to how much water we get every year to sell. Obviously, some years we have 10,000 acre feet and other years we have 70,000 acre feet. And so in order to kind of smooth that over in the financial model, we are required to set aside a certain amount of money each year to build up a reserve for those years when we do have zero allocation and less water sales revenue coming in.
Heather,
Yes, sir.
could I just ask a quick question about that? In the reserves for WIFIA, are the other members of WIFIA also required to set aside funds like this?
They probably have something similar. However, the retail agencies have a much more secure and known amount of revenue coming in every year, whereas, we are relying upon water sales, which in any given year could be, wildly different. So I would say that they probably have some element of savings that they need to put aside so that if they do have, let's say, there was a terrible turn in the economy and they weren't selling as much water as they expected at the retail level, that they would be able to cover those debt service payments. That's really what it's intended for. But it's probably a different calculus than what we have.
Okay, thank you.
So when you take the difference between the revenues and the expenses and also set aside the $2.9 million for the rate stabilization fund, that leaves us with a net loss for the fiscal year 26-27 in our general fund budget of $114,700. And this will be pulled from our reserves line item titled New Infrastructure. Every year we like to show you this bar chart just to kind of compare year over year. So on your in the three sections of bars, we have budgeted revenue, budgeted expenses, and our total cash reserve. And on the y-axis, we have dollars. So in the revenue section, you can see our revenue has increased slightly over time. Last year, we did have more revenue than we had expected. That was because we did have a big water year. We sold the additional water that was that we received through the State Water Project and that we put into the exchange and storage program. And so we did have more revenue than we expected. We also received a couple $1 million more in grant funds last year than we had budgeted for. On the flip side, as when you're using assumptions and estimated amounts, we did have less revenue on the investment income, slightly less, about $1 million less than we had estimated. And our pass-through payments from successor agencies were also slightly less. And so I just want to point this out because in context that there's elements within the general fund budget that Cindy tries very hard to be accurate on, but there are things beyond our control that influence those numbers. So this year, you'll see in the purple on the far right, we are above most years, but below last year. On the budget expenditures, you can see we had a high mark in 2023. That's when we were having a lot of construction on Weaver Basins and also getting ready to go into construction for Enhanced Recharge Project. We may have even been under construction on Enhanced Recharge Project that year. So we had a lot of expenditures that year. That has come down to just over 60 million proposed in this upcoming, in 50 million in our expenditures for this year, mainly because if you notice, there wasn't a lot of field improvements funding necessary this year. We are kind of in the planning, design, engineering phase again for a couple more projects coming up. And then obviously as your expenditures, go down, or if there's high years of expenditures, that influences your cash reserves. And so this year, we do expect by the end of this fiscal year to have about 124 million in our cash reserves. Again, you can see that has climbed up again since our low level in 2023 when we were doing a lot of construction using those reserves. And I go back to past policies that the boards have set over the years, that we try very hard to keep our financing expenses low, the interest that we pay on projects low. We try to cash finance investments as much as we can in our infrastructure projects. And that kind of has a cyclical aspect to it, where you spend a lot of money on construction, then you start saving up for the next big project. And you can see that in our reserves charts.
Through chair. Thank you.
Jose,
I'm sorry if you spoke on this already, Heather. Just looking at the bar chart, I see like the previous years, the red and the green, there was more expenditures than revenue. So I'm assuming that we had cash financing there, and that's why the expenditures were still higher, but our reserve is still going up.
Yes, that is because we had, again, past boards strategically built those cash reserves. So we built the regional recycled water system using cash. That was the pipeline from Sterling Natural Resource Center and also Weaver Basins using our cash reserves. Yeah. Mhm.
Mr. Chair,
yes.
just a
Gil.
quick question. I don't know if this might be for Cindy. So at the school district where I'm a board member, what the board policy is that we have a cash reserve of at least 15%. So Cindy, what is that? How does that represent with this, our reserve?
So we have a current cash reserve policy that's kind of sets the different buckets that we'll do. And so, as our, cash increase, like Heather was mentioning, it is just dependent on what kind of large transactions that, when it got down to the 2023 is at the first number, it was probably lower than what we would have liked. But then it's bringing, coming back to be able to do those in the future. So percentage wise, I haven't done that calculation. Don't tell anybody, but I can't do much math in my head. I'm a CPA that needs a calculator.
I was just wondering if there was like a policy, like it should be, because we have 15% as our policy, but it's actually 30% is what we maintain. So I was just wondering, that's all.
We are working on that, revisions, and so we'll be coming back to you very soon with
Great.
revisions on that.
Thank you, sir.
So I wanted to take a little bit of time to explain, while $124 million is a lot of money to have in reserves, that is not all just sitting there for any purpose whatsoever. So I wanted to explain a little bit about the reserve balances. And so here we have, this is our cash reserve balances that were in the packet. $35.3 million of that money is encumbered for different purposes. It's pretty much set aside with a earmark on it that said this is what the money will be used for. So the first one that we have here is we have customer deposits. So what that means is that you can see here $16 million. And with my glasses on, it says $16 million. What happens is, as you remember in Resolution 888, the customers that we have, they have the opportunity to prepay for their water, and they get a discount. I think it's about $20 an acre foot off if they prepay for water. And so they will pay that amount of money based on whatever water they're going to order. Cindy puts it into our reserves, and it goes into this earmarked line item of customer deposits. We also have money in there for water set aside to purchase related to the Fontana settlement obligations. So they pay us that money every single year. We don't spend it on our own things. It doesn't get spent until we actually put that water in the ground. So there's a significant amount of money set aside for customer deposits that will only be used when we deliver the water. There's also the WIFIA rate stabilization fund that's highlighted there, $10.4 million. That's a few years worth of the payments that we will be starting to incur here in just a few years. We also have the Basin Management Fund, which is the bottom one, $8.7 million. As you know, when the board declares water surplus to our current year demands, that revenue that comes in goes into a set aside Basin Management Fund that will be used as decided by the board of directors in the future. We've only done this 2 years so far. So we've been building up that reserve. It could be used on new water infrastructure. It could be used on if for some reason we got into a situation where we needed to buy water in any given year. So that money is set aside for the good of the basin and the people that we serve in a specific line item within the budget. Then we have $15 million for emergency repairs and replacements of infrastructure here locally. So if we had, a pipeline burst or a turnout or a valve blowout or something like that, we would dip into that infrastructure emergency repairs line item, which, as we all know, current infrastructure prices are expensive and get more expensive every year. And so we feel like that's the right level for, an emergency repair that we might need to do on our large infrastructure. Then we also have $10 million of an operations reserve, and that has been set aside so that, again, we are highly influenced by the economy and how things are going within our region. And so we are required to set aside an operational fund that if for some reason we didn't get revenue in any given year, we could still maintain operations. And then the balance of the cash reserves is under this line item, new infrastructure. So that is projects that, again, we know that we need to build in the coming years. Devil Basins, for instance, in the San Bernardino part of our service area is a big one. The second phase of the regional recycled water system. And then also, if needed, the enhanced recharge 1B debt service, if we needed to use that in the future for some reason. So that's how the cash reserves come out. And that's why, that's how we get up to the 124 million. But I never want to give anyone the idea that that is just sitting there with no purposes attached to it. And in terms of the estimated income, we have the general property taxes. So that's our portion of the 1%. That's estimated again to be around $16 million. That is not something that we control. That's totally based on assessed values in any given year and basically what the county gives to us. We have estimated the increase in assessed value, which again, Cindy sadly does not have a crystal ball sitting back in her office. So we have estimated that at a reasonable level of 3%. Some years it's more, some years it's less, as we know. Also, the investment income, you can see that is also based on an assumption. And, we did not make as much interest last year in the general fund as we estimated. And then again, the pass-through payments. So that is something that we have zero control over. That has to do with the timing with which the entities who had redevelopment agencies and their successor agencies, the timing with which they do their work, meaning how much of their debt they've paid off. If they are done paying off all those debts, then we, start getting that revenue from them. But that's all done through the countywide oversight board and those successor agencies, which Cindy does sit on. So I feel like as much of a crystal ball as we can have, we do. But again, that is a pure estimate. So that's how we came up with the estimated $53,891,000, along with the estimated water sales based on our current year's allocation. So that gets us to the expenditure side. I do believe, so this is what I'm going to call the salmon pages. That's based on the color, not the fish. I believe you also did get copies of the blue pages, which is the more detailed explanation section by section. So we just pulled out a couple or a few of the sections that we usually like to go over, or something that is different from last year in a way that I wanted to take the time to explain it in case you had questions, but we can go back to either the salmon or the blue colored pages if you have specific questions on light items. So we will start with the pipeline control system, or our SCADA system. As stated in our staff memo, this has not had a significant upgrade of hardware and software since the 90s, and so we are ready to take that on. We have the staff in place who can do that. Wen is going to be overseeing that. So it is a big bump in the budget from last year. $225,000 for communications and control upgrades and $225,000 for SCADA control and communication design. So this is basically Dave MacArthur, our SCADA person, and Tony working together hand in hand on both the wiring and all of the physical hardware that you have to put out there in order for the SCADA to work. Also the SCADA hardware itself, and also all of the software that is involved in the communications in controlling all of the water. We are doing this on the water side first, but we do envision that we will also incorporate the hydro operations once those facilities are ready. So this is going to be a multi-year project. It's a very significant effort related to all of the facilities that we have spread out over, many, many square miles. And so we're ready to get that kicked off. And so that was, I wanted to take the time to explain those increases in the budget this year for SCADA. Okay. The next section is 62600 in the blue pages. The replacement vehicles. So we have two sections this year. We have two different line items. The proposed amount for the board's consideration is $590,000. So let's start with the fleet vehicles. This would be the first year that we are asking for 5 new vehicles. That is related to expansion into hydro operations. The board has approved 4 positions for hydro operations for the time being until we get all of the facilities up and running. And so we will need 3 trucks for the hydro operations for the supervisor, the lead, and an operator. These will need to be 4-wheel drive. As you will see when we go out on a tour, these are dirt Forest Service roads, often not maintained. They're up in the mountains, lots of rocks, lots of ruts, etc. So these will need to be high clearance 4-wheel drive trucks with a tight turn radius if we can get them. And 2 new vehicles for water operations. One would be a truck to put into the service of the water operations, and 1 small SUV that will be used a lot for the SCADA work that needs to be done, that has equipment that needs to be in an enclosed vehicle, but in a cargo space. So that is for the fleet vehicles. I will take the opportunity to, I'll come back to you. Did you raise your hand? Oh, okay, sorry. I saw it out of the corner of my eye. So this year we are doing something a little bit different. We have developed a fleet team. So this will be led by Karen Resendez, our HR and risk manager. She'll be kind of the point person in coordination with Wen as the COO and with Cindy, of course, as the CFO. With some assistance from Jose, who says he likes to investigate and do deals on cars. So we're going to have a different system of purchasing vehicles this year. Director Velasquez actually gave some resources to us on places that you can buy fleet vehicles, even if you're not buying a lot all at one time. And so Wen is going to be working on the specific requirements that we need for each one of these vehicles. And Karen and others will work in the investigation of where we can get those vehicles for the cheapest. If we can get them locally, that's what we try to do. It'll come down to kind of, is it more advantageous to buy them locally through a local dealer, keep that revenue in our service area, or if there is a significant break per vehicle through the state system, then perhaps we'll go that way. But Karen's going to be the point person with assistance from Wen of acquiring those vehicles based on the specifications that we need, and then getting them out into our fleet. Usually we rotate trucks out about every 10 years, but because we have needed more vehicles, we still have trucks that are a little bit older than 10 years in the fleet right now, and we just keep maintaining them. We also have someone in operations who oversees all the maintenance of those vehicles and all the different administrative things that we have to do for those trucks. So that is the fleet vehicles, the trucks that we need to go forward in the operations for this upcoming year, especially expanding into hydro. And then we are asking for authorization to buy an excavator. This would be used for maintenance of both the water facilities, but also especially the hydro facilities where we're going to be maintaining the diversions of flow from the rivers and streams into the hydro facilities. We're going to need a somewhat agile and nimble excavator to move that material, it's sand and rocks pretty much out of the streams, up to create what they call a sugar berm or a sugar dike to divert that water into the hydro facilities. We could be doing this 4 or 5 times a season based on how much rain we get. And we will also get some attachments so that we can use it for the land management and maintenance activities that we have brought in-house with the hiring of James Law. So in total, that sum is $590,000. Are there questions on this line item?
Thank you. I'm happy to hear that there's a process in place now. That's a good thing. So I'm gonna go back to what I always say in terms of buying local. I understand the specific requirements, but at the end of the day, a truck is a truck. So, and when hopefully you'll direct your team that is implementing this process, that if there's an opportunity to purchase local, and there are car dealerships within our service area all over. And if it's a couple $100 more, but we could get it just a little cheaper, that's not a good decision. When we buy local, it provides jobs for our ratepayers, who many times work local, so and they do business locally. So I want to hit this, and I want hopefully you're going to follow up with them and making certain that they're doing their due diligence in buying local. That's my comment. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We hear you. One thing about this year that is different also is that usually we've tried to enter into fleet contracts with local dealerships, but usually you need to buy 5 minimum. This is the first year that we will be buying 5, and so we will be reaching out to the local dealerships and see if we can get a specific fleet contract. That's something that Karen and Wen will be working on and just weighing the different options. Okay, field improvements. This is kind of a low year for us, about $1 million, $1,085,000. We will be wrapping up the mitigation requirements, spreading sand between the basins of the enhanced recharge phase 1B project, along with some vegetation management and things like that. If you remember, we put a significant deposit down for our mitigation requirements with California Department of Fish and Wildlife. They do that because a lot of entities walk away from their mitigation before meeting their success requirements. And so they make agencies now put down that deposit, but we feel very confident that Joanna and her team are going to meet our success requirements, and we will get that money back from the deposit. Also this year we have a new project kicking off. Wen can tell you a little bit more about it if you have specific questions. This is in partnership with the city of Redlands related to the San Bernardino Avenue well rehabilitation. This is a well that we share custody of with Redlands. It can be used to benefit both agencies, but it does need some significant work on it in order to maximize its production. Eventually, this well will also be tied into the conjunctive use program that we have planned that would have a couple new wells and use of a pipeline within the river where we could pull water from the place where we are recharging the most, which is at Weaver Basins and Enhanced Recharge, put that into a pipeline and get it back out into the service area. So this well rehabilitation does work into our long-term strategy for conjunctive use.
Yes.
So that well, the district acquired as part of the 1996 settlement agreement with the Big Bear. So it was originally owned by Big Bear Municipal Water Department. I want to say probably in the 60s and 70s when the well was first constructed. So give or take about 50, 60 years old. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. On to consultants. The proposed amount is $3,688,500. I will say this is the line item where we usually have what is that phrase? Our eyes are bigger than our stomachs. This is kind of all the things we know we need to work on this year to keep the balls moving forward. But usually we come in below the amount proposed. We did try to be very realistic in how much work we can get done and keep it to like what we think we can actually spend in the fiscal year. So I've just highlighted a few of these that I think, are most important to the board and the people that we serve, and we're really pushing forward on them. The basin optimization framework and kind of the parameters for groundwater storage and these operating ranges. Again, we talked a lot about basin optimization and knowing that our groundwater aquifer is the most valuable asset that we have in terms of water resilience, trying to get all of the parties around the table in terms of figuring out how can we maximize this value of the basin and make ourselves more resilient long-term. If you'll remember from the many presentations that Wen and Michael and Greg Woodside have given related to the basin, while we do have a lot of water in there, we also do have a lot of empty space. It's at near historic lows, and it will take a coordinated effort to recharge the basin so that we have water available in the future. That's what this is all about. We think based on timing and where we are in the framework process, we can spend about $250,000 this upcoming year. And so that's what we put in the budget, just kind of as our best estimate. Cactus Basins, again, very important project to us. We keep pushing forward. Again, I think you've heard from Greg Woodside recently. It's going well. We have a facilitator. There's some additional modeling that we're talking through with the facilitated sessions. And so we put a couple $100,000 to keep that effort going forward. Ideally, we get to the place where we can finish up the engineering in terms of how you get the water into the Cactus Basins. We're feeling optimistic, and so we did include that as well, environmental and engineering. We significantly lean on the engineering or on-call services for both engineering and environmental. This is primarily Skivel Engineering. This is who we lean on to help us with some of our design work in terms of basin maintenance. It is things like pipeline connections, turnouts, operations plans, all those different types of things. As you're aware, our engineering team is down a player. And so we have Wen and Leo and Aaron right now in engineering. So we do lean heavily on Skivel Engineering. Also, we have some environmental on-call services that we bring in when needed to get the projects moving forward or to wrap them up.
Through the chair, Heather, new
Yes.
conservation scenarios and groundwater monitoring.
We will repeat the question. Can you turn on your mic?
Yeah, the line item, new conservation scenarios and groundwater modeling.
Ma'am, can you turn on your mic,
$100,000.
please?
Pardon? What'd you like?
Oh,
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm looking at the line item, new conservation scenarios and groundwater modeling, $100,000.
Yes, so that is related to the Enhanced Recharge Project and in the future, the Active Recharge and the PERC projects. So new conservation is a very specific technical term within the judgment that is the water that goes in the ground directly resulting from this new infrastructure that we build that would not have been captured otherwise.
Okay.
And so you have to basically do a lot of modeling to understand what would have recharged either pretty much into the riverbed itself and without the project versus what was captured with the project. And then that number is what the state board bases your permanent water right on.
Okay.
And so for that reason, it's very technical analysis. If you remember, we have updated the model a few times, but that is to support our water right.
Heather,
Yes.
is this the area where we would see any type of grant consultant? Are we using grant consultants?
Yes, there is a line item in there called on-call grant services. That's $100,000. We use Kennedy Jenks. They have
Oh, there it is.
been
I
able
see.
to get us.
I missed it. Thank you.
Yes, significant grant funding. Meredith Clement is her name. And so they are fantastic at doing their job. So yes, we did include that.
Well, I thought our significant grant funding was coming from that lady sitting in the back of the room.
Joanna is our other whiz. They also do a lot of our grant reporting, which is a significant time saver for our staff.
Good.
We also have Seven Oaks Dam Water Conservation Project. That's the FIRO effort that we do with Scripps, UC San Diego, the CW3E. We included $600,000 as we work our way into the final viability assessment in August, I believe. Greg will be giving a presentation on the results of the preliminary viability assessment, which I will just, spoiler alert, it came out better than I could have hoped for. So that's great news. And we are rolling into the the final viability assessment for FIRO on Seven Oaks Dam.
Wonderful.
Yes, we also included $185,000 for the Ukaipa Basin groundwater modeling that was just approved by the board for Western Heights. That's the science that needs to be done related to their proposed ASR project. And then you will also see we do have $210,000 in there for the Ukaipa Sigma annual support services. There's an annual report that needs to be done. There's also, I believe, a model update that needs to be done. The majority of that would be reimbursed. I think $187,000 would be reimbursed by the Ukaipa Sigma parties, but we include the whole contract amount since we would be managing that. I didn't highlight it, but we also have $300,000 in there proposed for Sunrise Ranch Phase 1 implementation, which would be doing some engineering work, some survey work that needs to be done so you can figure out exactly where you should site reservoirs and such. Just looking to see if there's anything else on there. We do want to continue the work going on related to the Devil Basins expansion. That's a really high priority groundwater recharge project in the San Bernardino area that would be done in partnership with the city of San Bernardino. So $125,000 for some design work on that. Okay, so I think that's the highlights of consultants.
Okay.
So so over at SAPA, we just approved for staff to go out and do an RFP for a consultant to go after money grant. So it would be great if we could share our person with them, not just so that they make sure that they're on the list when they send out, since we've had some success with them. Perfect. And then I was looking at Ukaipa, the basin, groundwater modeling, and the Sigma. So I understand that we are reimbursed, and so I get the formula. But I just want to remind staff that there's $350 million coming in Prop 10 to fund basin optimization, Sigma, including findings in the state report. So there's a lot of money there that I think that, I haven't always been a real fan of our consultant at Sigma, but if that's something that they can look at, that would be great, because that would help them with the great work that they do. And also the findings that the Sigma identified in Ukaipa. So I just want to highlight that. I think it's an opportunity for us to go after some of those monies. Thank you.
Thank you. We will also pass that along to our our contracted grant consultant as well. Okay, dues and subscriptions. So we did some rearranging this year, and so I wanted to take the time to explain. This is all the things that you are either a member of that has a annual dues, such as Aqua. It's a $40,000 annual dues amount. We are part of the California Data Collaborative. I believe Greg Woodside and Ada Kunle are involved in that one. It provides a lot of really good information in terms of data management and kind of everyone in Southern California working together. California Municipal Utilities Association, I think, will be even more valuable this year as we go into power. They do both water and power. Fantastic group, especially if any of the staff or the board wants to get involved in that. I highly recommend it. This also includes the annual support that we do for Center for Western Weather and Water Extremes, and also a few other groups that we work with on technical things. National Water Supply Alliance, Greg Woodside's very involved in that. They are very instrumental in getting forward progress working with the Corps of Engineers related to water conservation. And then there's also a few things in here, professional licenses. We have a lot of technical experts that have to keep their memberships up. And we have a few coalitions that we do participate in on both Salinity and the Southern California Water Coalition. The most substantial line item in here is really about subscriptions. So most of the modern softwares have gone to the subscription-based model of work. And so a lot of, Microsoft and the different GIS softwares, all the different software that we use has an annual subscription. We also increase the amount because we do anticipate starting to move over to cloud-based systems for storage and management of all of our data and our files. The reason to do this is really security related. And then also, in case of an emergency, you don't have to rely upon this building staying intact or being usable. Right now, we house almost all of our data on servers upstairs in a room. But as you know, there's a lot of problems associated with a major earthquake if all of our data that we need to use to recover operations is housed on physical servers upstairs. So we do want to try to start to migrate to cloud-based systems where you can access them from anywhere. We are going to start with GIS because that is a manageable amount. And also we just want to kind of get our feet under us as we migrate to those types of systems. So that's the reason for the increase, is that all of those different subscriptions have been moved into this line item. It also includes all of our security software that we use, cybersecurity, physical security. It all kind of goes through these software-based systems. Any questions on that? Okay.
Is this the area where we would, if we were going to add some Chamber of Commerce memberships?
If you wanted to propose that, and it is a annual dues, this is where you would ask the board to support that, yes.
Okay. I would like to ask that we join Redlands, Loma Linda, and Grand Terrace. Those are active organizations that include a number of the business entities in this valley, and I think it's good that we have a presence in those operations. I haven't examined that. They're in the $300 or $400 range. They're not 5,000s or anything like that.
If I may make a recommendation, if the board is considering, I would say we should also look at other chambers of commerce within our service area that are active, effective, and may want to be involved in understanding what we do.
Yeah, or could become more effective.
Yeah, through the chair. So who's going to be the arbiter of that?
I would leave that up to the individual directors that know the chambers within their particular division. I am not an expert on that, so
I also
recommendations.
I also regularly attend the Highland Chamber of Commerce, but that's not in my jurisdiction. So I did not include that in my recommendations. That's up to somebody else. I pay the fee. Arden?
I'd like to add the Highland Chamber of Commerce.
Mhm.
Through the chair.
Yes.
I think it's a good idea, and I like Heather's recommendation on adding other chambers that are effective, and we could actually be more visible and spread the our mission through these chambers that we could collaborate and partner up with the chamber. So I'm good with that. I would like to include Fontana.
I'd like to include San Bernardino as well.
Okay, we have 6. Any others?
Record, just so everyone knows, I've already done the research. There's about 16 chambers in our service area.
Yeah.
So just so you know that when you do this, you open the floodgates. So as these requests come, we should give our staff direction that they should, I don't want angry phone calls about they were denied. So just I think we should open it up and so that it's not a big deal. And if people call and they want to be sponsored, I think they should be sponsored if they're in our service area. I'm not gonna encourage anyone to do it, but if it happens, I don't want any angry customers in our service area.
I'm good with that. Good.
Question,
Yes.
who would they call? Well, not me. They'd call the district office.
They'll probably call me.
I think they should call. Well,
I don't think it's,
you wouldn't make the decision.
For the record, since, okay, I didn't want to talk about, I didn't want to go into this, but for the record, I don't think that it's a good idea. I think you open the floodgates. I think there's some chambers that are very effective, some chambers that are not. But you know what? I'm not gonna make that call. But I think that, like our former colleague used to say, June Hayes, she says, she would ask me in open session, what does that have to do with water, Gil? So, so since we went down this road, I'm gonna be very candid and transparent. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Through the chair,
Yes.
I think it would be appropriate for any chamber that is interested to contact. the
Sorry.
The director would have to see. Need to hear over that.
Sorry. Ringo decided he wanted to be a part of our meeting.
I would think that the request could be made, communicated through the division director, but the decision would be made by the board. And we would look at them on a case by case basis. In the short time that I've lived in Yucaipa, the Chamber of Commerce there has changed dramatically from being a very effective organization to being a completely ineffective organization and everything in between. So I wouldn't think of any membership as being perpetual. It would remain to be seen what the validity of that membership was.
I think that's a good point. I don't see anything wrong with considering it every year. Not just have it automatic. Let's put it on the list and we can agree to put them on the next year or not. I think that's a good idea.
Well, perhaps if I am approached by entities other than the ones we already talked about, that have support from the board, I could, talk it over with the people who are most familiar with that area and get your feedback and concerns or whatever that might be. And then I can make that decision totally on my own. So if the board members would be willing to consult with me if we are approached by entities that I'm not familiar with, that would be very helpful.
My experience with the chambers is that they are composed of people who own businesses and who are active in our area. And I think it's good to have a relationship with the business owners. They're water users and water payers also, because they all have buildings and they all So I think it's, but whereas, some of the other organizations are just confined to water, these are business people that support, our various functions, so. And their customers. Thank you.
Okay, so just to be clear, my direction from the board is to add in, I'll talk it over with Cindy, an amount of money that could cover up to 16, but we will see where we land on the list. Is that supported by the board?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Mhm.
Through Chair.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So are we moving on to environmental compliance and Headwater Resilience Partnership?
Yes.
Okay, are you, did you go over that?
Not
already?
yet.
Not yet.
Oh, okay, because I have some questions.
I went backwards.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, water conservation. This is two major line items. So one is demand management. That's our in-house program that the board funds out of our general fund as incentives to the retail agencies to build up their water conservation programs. We made a slight adjustment in the way it is distributed through the line items, moving the funding that was previously within the regional education and the regional outreach line items up into demand management. This was done at the request of the retail agency coordinators, just to provide maximum flexibility in the applications and how we can distribute those funds for their different programs. They're all very unique, and so we want to make that as easy as possible to help them meet their goals. The other big line item on here is $4.7 million. Again, as a reminder, this is the grant that will be reimbursed by DWR for the direct install. Kelly gave a presentation recently on that, and that funding will be expended by the end of this calendar year and reimbursed by that grant. There's also $10,000 in there for water conservation sponsorships. This is usually things related to the different cities. Rialto, Colton, Redlands all have Earth Day events where we go and we have a booth of San Bernardino Valley, and we talk about water conservation and demand management efforts. Okay. The next section is external affairs. Proposed $608,000. This continues with 2 state water project tours. This is a very popular event, especially now that we are leading it ourselves. We do have fully subscribed for the fall and already building a list for the spring. We do have a waiting list after most tours. I will tell you, this is one of the most effective tools that we have to educate people on what we do, why we do it, why it's important, and how it all fits together related to their local water supply. So we are proposing that we continue with 2 tours. Also, the Foundation Summit, the local facilities tour, where we go up to Seven Oaks Dam, out to Cactus Basins, Enhanced Recharge, et cetera. Again, people have a hard time understanding the scale of the projects that we work on and that we build until they actually see something like the Enhanced Recharge project or the 78-inch pipeline that goes across City Creek. So we do believe that's also a very important tour. We have Trails Day. We have a special event planned for the dedication of the hydropower facilities that would involve, kind of lots of people from our watershed that rely upon that clean water coming down the mountain. So we do want to celebrate that significant milestone in the fall. Trails Day and the Santa Ana River Science Symposium. We have a couple small things in here that we need to do. We need to bring our website, even though it's brand new, we have to redo some of our PDFs so that they are ADA compliant. So that's built into this section budget. And we would like to do a produced video on the hydropower facilities just because they have such a significant historical importance within our watershed, but also to highlight the tie between the water, and it seems obvious since it has the word hydro in it, but the water and the power and how it all fits together. So we built that into this budget. Any questions about this section?
I just wanted to make a comment. Heather, on our tours. Our tours have become, I think, the best possible outreach we could do. It is incredible to me how people come back from the tour and they're talking about it constantly. They're talking about it to people that they know and when I happen to run into them and so forth, they just go on about it. And because of that, I'm sure all of us have gotten requests from various individuals. Boy, I'd sure like to go on that tour. I hear so much about it and it's so great of you to do it and so forth. So I just wanted to say I think it's getting a tremendous response and it is very solid relative to our reputation and what our presence in this valley.
The chair.
Thanks. Yes, Gil.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on that comment. And special thank you to staff, because I know that to coordinate all the flights and rooms and
Right.
just all the different personalities and needs, individual needs and group needs, they never say no, our staff. So thank you, because that's a big deal.
Thanks, Gil. That's absolutely true. All put on by our staff. And
They make it look easy somehow, but
Yeah, I
we definitely
know.
appreciate all of you who work on those events.
we just have geniuses on our staff. What can I say?
Okay, environmental compliance, proposed $2.48 million. I'll just go through a couple of these things. So we do have about $300,000. This is an up to amount for special covered species surveys. You have to have permitted biologists for all the different surveys that you do. This would go towards both permit compliance, that we need to submit reports related to either pre or during or even post projects, that we need to submit those reports to the Fish and Wildlife Service and Cal Fish and Wildlife. There will also be quite a few special species surveys done at Sunrise Ranch during those particular seasons so that we can document either species that we have or suitable habitat on that property, which then feeds into the mitigation credit account, which is what is fundamentally going to become the mitigation bank. You have to do those surveys at a certain period per year, either when they're out or when it's the nesting season or things like that. So we did build that amount of funding into it so we can do all of that. Our field biologists, especially Kim Romich and Kai Palenskar, they can do a few of the species. Kim's an expert and she's permitted in both San Bernardino kangaroo rat and birds, endangered birds. Kai can do fish, birds, and plants, but they're two people, and we do have a heavy workload coming up in preparation for developing a mitigation bank. So that's why we have that in there. We have, I'll come back to that one. Let's see, some weed management activities, Sterling Natural Resource Center, weed management, aquatic predator. Those are obligations of the Sterling Natural Resource Center biological opinion that we implement on their behalf because we have the staff who is qualified to do that. And that was kind of written into the biological opinions. It also nestles within the Greater Habitat Conservation Plan strategy. Those costs are reimbursed by East Valley Water District. And then we have the Riverside County Parks Rangers and Operator positions that was approved last year on September 2nd by the board. As a reminder, these are the Riverside County Rangers that patrol on a daily and sometimes more than once a day basis of the habitat restoration projects that we have done down in the river where those species actually occur. This would be Anza Creek, Hidden Valley Creek, Hidden Valley wetland area, all of that work that we have done already as a requirement of the different permits that we're managing and as part of the Habitat Conservation Plan. They patrol these areas and have a significant deterrence of homeless encampments being built and established in a way that we would then have to pay to pick them up. As we talked about during that September meeting and they presented all of the data, it is a significant cost, but it is a proactive cost as opposed to a reactive cleanup cost that many agencies are struggling with all over the watershed. So we have included that because it is part of a 3-year contract. And I think I'll stop there and answer your questions.
Thank you, Heather. I just wanted to comment on that particular aspect. I'm just getting a number of positive responses from the 4 rangers that we sponsor it and what we do out there, people that are involved and that do surveys and are involved in various ways with regard to the river as to what a significant improvement these rangers are making relative to the protection of the river and the avoidance of improper interference with the operations of the river. It's a great public relations tool, but it's also, of course, doing a tremendous job in preserving an important, one of our most important assets. So thank you.
Through the chair.
Gil was next.
Go ahead, Paul. Paul can go first.
Okay.
Just tap me on the shoulder when you raise your hand.
Mhm.
Despite what I told my kids, I do not have eyes in the back of my head. The line item mitigation credit account, what did that refer to?
So that is the work that we're doing with the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. It's called a mitigation credit account. It's really a mitigation bank. It's just that the state calls theirs a mitigation credit account. So that is the work that we're doing for all of the properties that we are restoring. We are compiling all of that work into a value per credit that we will be able to sell either by applying it to the existing permits that are within the Habitat Conservation Plan structure, our own permits, or if we don't have a use for them in the future, we can sell those to the open market and recoup our costs. And this would include, Joanna is going to give a presentation, I think it's in August, on how far along we are. We are the first ones in the state to do this. It came out of what was called the RCIS program, which is a statewide program. It's a way to do mitigation banks easier. So Joanna and Kim have been working on that. And so we will wrap in Sunrise Ranch as well. So eventually the 1,000 acres at Sunrise Ranch will also be contained within this mitigation credit agreement. As you do it ahead, you have the ability, not to go nerdy here, but you know me, you can stack credits through this program. So let's say you have an acre that has San Bernardino kangaroo rat value, River City and alluvial fan sage scrub value, and let's say a least buzzberry or a gnatcatcher. You can sell that credit to someone who needs a permit for those 3 species and bring in that revenue or use it for our own permits. So the mitigation credit agreement is the structure that you house all that value. Joanna will give a great presentation explaining it all in August, but yeah, it's the new kind of mitigation bank.
All right. Gil passed.
Oh, passed.
Go
Okay.
ahead.
Okay, so that covers this section, if there's not any more questions. Okay, Headwaters Resilience Partnership. So this is an effort we've been working on for about 5 years, trying to bring, I think there's 70 different entities working together through this partnership from our watershed, i.e. RCD is another lead. The Forest Service, of course, you all know Dee Dee, the forest supervisor, very involved in this, but also different entities, Cal State San Bernardino, National Forest Federation. And so they've actually been successful in getting over $30 million worth of grant money to go towards fuels management or restoration projects in our watershed. As a reminder, why are we interested in this? Well, because of our headwaters, our surface water supply primarily used by East Valley Water District, City of Redlands, Bear Valley, and Crafton. But in some way, shape, or form, we all depend on that headwaters, clean mountain source of water coming down the river and its tributaries and either being directly used or going into the ground through recharge. As we've seen post line fire, we have not, or we, I say we, it's really Bear Valley, Redlands, and East Valley has had challenges using that water for 3 years because of ash and debris flows post line fire. So we've been working on this effort to try to get out ahead of the next fire, reduce some fuels. And so we have a minor effort in the implementation of the program, especially since Chris Jones left. He was the one who was leading this effort. We have since moved to a consultant to head up this program since we don't have the internal staff capacity at this time. But we are working with Cal State San Bernardino on something called the Mountain Lab, which is basically water quality testing and monitoring. That Cal State San Bernardino actually does that work, and we take the data. This is from water out behind the dam primarily, but also in the tributaries. We also have included, $200,000 for a fuels management effort or a restoration project. We don't exactly know what this is right now. James Law is working on a plan, kind of a fuels management plan, both around the hydropower facilities, but also on the land that we own, either at Sunrise Ranch or other properties. And the strategy is that we would use these projects that we need to do anyways as matching funds in a grant application for additional grant money from Prop 4, which is the big wildfire and resilience grant that will be opening up in the fall. So we want to include some money that if we get an opportunity to do either a post-fire slope restoration project probably, or a fuels management project, that we can use that fund towards a grant.
Okay. Is this an area where we may also want to consider putting, setting aside an investment with Blue Forest Conservation? We're looking at a tour in the fall with them.
Yes, this is the section that we would do that. However, I will say I'm not sure that we're totally ready to do that because
No,
we
we're
don't know exactly where they are in terms of a project that would be implemented. But this
Where
is,
this would go next year.
yes,
After.
this is where it would go.
follow up.
Again, we would very likely use that investment as matching funds on a Prop 4 application.
Okay.
James is actually leading up fire resistance or fire resilience project development of a list along with the fire safe councils from the mountain communities and the Forest Service that we would put together kind of one big grant application. If we get that opportunity before the end of the fiscal year that we're talking about right now, we would come back to the board, and depending on that, whatever that amount is and that opportunity is, you may have to do a small budget amendment to include those funds. But right now I didn't include it because I wasn't sure enough about what that project might look like.
But there's an opportunity to bring it in if it matures.
Yes, we do believe that we have about $200,000 worth of our own fuels management work that we can do, especially around the hydro facilities that we need to do anyways. And so by being in this category, instead of kind of our own maintenance and operations, we can put that into a grant application as our matching work.
Okay.
Any additional questions in this section?
Seeing none?
Okay. Okay, so this is the last two sections I wanted to go over because they're slightly different. As I stated in the staff memo, we did have, we drew a $46.9 million WIFIA loan in November of 2025. The first payment on the interest only payment is due in 2029, which is just around the corner. The principal payment on that $46.9 million would be in January of 2044, and those would go all the way through 2061. I don't have the total interest amount if we just did it according to the plan that was in the WIFIA loan. Cindy can probably look that up if you're interested. But it is a significant amount of interest that we would be paying on $46 million. even though we did get a advantageous interest rate, $46 million, even at 4% is a lot. So one of the great things about Withia is that we have an opportunity to prepay interest so that it doesn't capitalize. And there is no penalty to doing that. That's different than like if you went out to finance a project through bonds. It doesn't matter if you won the lottery tomorrow and you want to pay off your loan, you're not allowed to do that because of the way that that financing mechanism is structured. Withia is different. They allow you to prepay interest if you would like to without penalty, and you do have significant interest savings on those projects. For every $1 million that you prepay towards the capitalized interest, again, that is just compounding right now, you will realize $2.1 million of gross savings on your future payments and your total project costs. So we are proposing that we prepay $2 million in interest. By doing that, we will save $4.2 million in project costs over the life of that loan. As you know, every dollar counts related to our local infrastructure where, we only have our general fund to use towards that project. You will have heard me say before, the active recharge projects and the PERC projects are, hundreds of millions of dollars. And so we feel, that is a good use of our funds is to try to bring down those interest costs from the existing one project that we have financed. And so if the board agreed, we would propose that we prepay $2 million towards that interest so that it does not capitalize over time. Or alternatively, if the board wanted to do $1 million, we're open to that as well. We just want to put it out there as an option.
I'd like to hear a couple of words from our CFO about that.
Thank you very much. No, I think this is a great plan to be able to, as Heather mentioned, this capitalizes the interest. It just starts accumulating. So we borrowed 46.9 million. We owe more than that now because we've already drawn on it in last November is when we drew on it. The number that on the interest, the total interest over the life of the loan is about 58 million. So the total price that we'd pay back is about 105 million. So anytime that we can get a little bit of payment to pay this loan down, I think is a great benefit to the public, great benefit to, and good use of our funds and reserve funds that we have. We may not be able to do it every year, but as we have money to do it, I think it's a great plan.
Good. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Any comments, questions?
I support doing that.
Moving along.
Especially in this
Thank you.
here.
Thank you, directors. Okay, everybody's favorite section. Last one. Sponsorships.
Before we go to that section.
Come on, Gail.
Exactly. Yeah. So just, because I didn't mention this and I didn't really know where it fit, but I wanted to ask, and I think when I first joined the board, I asked this and it was kind of whatever. But I think that it would be prudent if the board of directors, and it would be their choice, had district issued cell phones. And I think because we're adding a lot of layers to the work that we do. And I'm just thinking about the stuff that comes to my personal phone. And if there's ever an issue, and I don't want there to be an issue, and I don't expect there to be an issue, but I would feel more comfortable if I had a district issued cell phone.
I'm going to defer to which section that should go into, Cindy. I think it might be office equipment.
Well, if I can, I would suggest instead of if you had a district issued cell phone, then you would probably be carrying two cell phones, a district phone and then your own personal phone. I mean, if you wanted something where we reimbursement, which is what we've moved towards on the staff level, is we have reimbursements for cell phone allowance. This is a taxable item to you then, because it's not, it gets put on a paycheck. It then is a taxable. So there's two different ways now. You either have a taxable issue of a reimbursement of an allowance or a issued cell phone. And we could, exactly, we could add a cell phone, a district cell phone. The problem is that then you would have that phone number associated with you. You wouldn't, like if somebody else, another director came along, you wouldn't be able to transfer these phones easily. You'd probably get a new phone number for a new director. We're happy to do, anyways, it would be under utilities. I think there's enough in utilities. We do a lot of estimating in utility budget here, that we could probably handle this in the existing budget, just because we're estimating how much, biggest piece of utilities is the electricity. So estimate your electricity. I think there's plenty of money in this current budget to handle this couple $1,000s, $5,000 maybe total. But anyways, there's two different ways. Issued phone, but then that's the struggle. Then I think that you would be carrying two phones.
I would like to comment on that. And my concern has been for some time now, and I think it's getting more and deeper, if you will. And that is that what is said and done on our personal cell phones is discoverable if somebody comes in here and does a request for information. And I really don't want my personal cell phone to be discovered because I do so many secret things. I'm an open book. I don't have any secrets, but I'm just concerned about the fact that it is that our cell phones are subject to that discoverable situation. Anybody else? Susan?
No, I'm sorry.
I thought you said so.
Through chair.
Yes.
I'm okay with that, with the through the recommendations from Cindy, for those issues. I also see the concern that you have, Milford. I would like to have the option where the director can opt in or opt out of those type of reimbursements or phones. I don't need another phone. I'll be honest with you. But obviously the reimbursement, I would just want to check with legal, making sure that we're following code and making sure we can actually do that type of compensation first, but that would be my opinion. I'm okay with it if the board wants to, but me personally, I don't need another phone for that, but I'm okay with if the board does wish to have that.
So yeah, I totally agree with what Cindy said. I understand it, two phones or reimbursement. And I just think that it would be nice moving forward if the director had a choice. Yeah, that's all.
That would be my recommendation as well, is like each director can choose what's right for you, and we will support you on that. Thank you.
Great.
Okay, now we're at everyone's favorite section. Utilities is not everyone's favorite section, so. Okay, we, again, if, I feel like I say this every year, but so staff knows that this is, a particular section that directors have contacts out in the world beyond these four walls. And so we lean on you all to tell us what you think would be appropriate and that you would like to sponsor. So we, if you see something new in here, for instance, Southern California Water Coalition luncheon, we did add that in. That was not there last year. We added that in because that staff is recommending that we do that from our own experience. And I don't know why we've never done it before, but we forgot. So that's the only one that we changed. The other things we leave in here every year so that we can gauge board support, either for continuing support of that particular item or for the amount of that particular item. So we don't unilaterally change anything on this particular list. So if it looks the same, it's because we keep it the same so that we can understand where the board would like to go on this one. So just a quick summary, we do have proposed continued support for the 5 watershed resiliency fellowships at Cal State San Bernardino. As is, common these days, the administrative costs to run this program are slightly more this year for Dr. Jennifer Alford and her admin staff. So it went from 91,000 to 101,000. Again, these are the 5 fellows that we've actually picked up 1 employee out of that. We have a couple who've moved on to great jobs. We have a couple who are going to be interning for us. So we think it's a great pipeline, no pun intended, when for talent, that we can help develop the talent of the future workers within our watershed, not just for us, but also our surrounding agencies. So we have included that, but with an increased cost related to the administrative. I did propose to bring the miscellaneous water-related sponsorships up to 15,000. We usually do not know what the opportunities are going to be in the upcoming year, what conferences might be available for us to sponsor, what different meetings, those kinds of things might become available. So we wanted to keep that as flexible as possible. We do have also the SoCal STEAM Inland Solar Challenge at the same level as last year. I know there was some discussion amongst the kind of the meeting last year about whether we should start kind of pulling back a little bit on that sponsorship. I'm going to turn that over to the board and you direct us at what level you want to do that. I know that we did bring it up intentionally a few years ago when they were really looking for some additional support. So with that, I'm just going to turn it over to the board and you let us know what you would like this to look like and at what levels you feel comfortable sponsoring things.
Thank you, Heather. I just want to make one comment on the Cal State San Bernardino Fellowships. I just think that is one of the most positive outreach programs that this organization has become involved with. It just seems to return and it in many-fold. And it is incredible how this is adding to the recognition of what we do and adding to the understanding of various students, not just the 5 that we sponsor, but the word gets around and it's gotten around. And I hear comments from multiple sources about how great this was or is, and other organizations are following suit. I mean, we started something that's really great and I'm very proud of. So anybody else want to talk?
Yeah.
Gil?
Mr. Chair. Thank you, sir, Mr. President. I agree with everything you just said. In fact, I would hope that this board would how long have we been involved? We created that 3 years ago.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it's overwhelming success. I think everyone talks about workforce career paths and creating them, and we actually did it in partnership with Cal State San Bernardino and Dr. Alford. So I'm real proud of that. And I'm real proud of my board, our board, for doing that. So I think it would be interesting if we could agree maybe to take a look at adding a couple more interns. I don't know how much that would cost. I think it would be minimal since it's already created. So I would hope that the board would agree to that. That's number one. I'm going to do all of mine. That way I can be done. I have a question about the Southern California Water Coalition event. Did I attend that, Jose? I don't even remember what that is.
We didn't go this year.
Oh, okay.
They're quarterly. They're all over Southern California. We did go to one at the Mission Inn several years ago.
Yeah, that one. I
Yes.
love that
Mhm.
event. That was a great event.
Yeah.
That's
So
what I thought.
Right.
That's our goal, is that we would sponsor the one that's like near our service area, if not within our service area. Usually the other ones are really far, so we don't sponsor those.
Okay, that's perfect. I love it. And then under miscellaneous water related sponsorships, for example, Director Velasquez and I went to hear you speak at that the other day. So that's where those monies would come from, right?
Mhm. Correct.
And something like that, that especially I think when our staff is a keynote, our general manager, I think that we should consider purchasing a table. So I just want to put that on the record, because I know there's some hesitation sometimes, but but even if we can't go, maybe we can invite one of our water family. Hey, we have 10 spots, would you like to attend? It's gonna be in Laguna or whatever. I don't know, that just seems to make sense to me. Excuse me. And then, finally, the, Southern California STEAM, I would propose that, this is my proposal, that we reduce it to 10,000 as we discussed last year. And then I know that money, that $5,000, I mean, if the other directors want to do something else with that, that's fine, I think. But I think that there's an opportunity for them to come to us because they haven't done it. And I said this last year. They haven't come to us like they used to before we gave them. And that was, anyway, that was the wisdom of this board when we went up to 20,000. But I think that we give them an opportunity to come and report out to us because they don't do that anymore. Not like they used to, and say, this is, and myself and Milford, we not because of our schedule conflicts. The last 2 years I haven't been able to attend, so I haven't seen. I know Paul and Jose have attended and they saw it firsthand, but I haven't seen it for a couple of years, not by choice. So it would be great to have a report. It would be great, and I think that at that time, Cindy, I'm sure that we could probably find to restore that. But if it would be at the board's request, but my request is to reduce that to 10,000. That's all, sir.
Just to be clear, so you are asking the board to consider sponsoring 2 more fellows. I think that's about $55,000 additional. Is that what you were asking for? Okay.
55, did you say?
Yeah, for 2 more fellows, it's about 55,000, maybe 50,000. I don't know the number off the top of my head. I forgot to add about the.
How do you get that out of this? It seems like this is.
It's like 20.
Yeah, well, okay, I'm also terrible in the head math. Yes, you're right. It is 20 apiece, so it's 40,000.
Okay.
I'm guessing. I did forget to add one of the great benefits to the district of these fellows. I know Joanna probably could figure it out, but we get a ton of field help during our field season in the river of building the microhabitat on behalf of Sterling Natural Resource Center and also the Native Fish Survey. The best part about that is there are very few occasions for people in school to get the opportunity to work with endangered species. So we take them out in the field everywhere with us so that they can get it on the resume, but also we get, labor that we probably couldn't afford otherwise. So they do provide a lot of value there.
To the chair.
Yes.
Also, what I would like to add about the fellowships is investing in fellowships just for our district and disability. That is
Absolutely.
industry.
And that's who's responding to it, is the industry. We're just hearing it from so many of our peers. Thank you. I think it's one of the best things we've ever done. And the lady and the doctor that's in charge of it, she's a pistol. She's something else. She gets it done, and she's a great leader. So I really appreciate that. And I'm glad to hear Joanna response. I could see to what you said about the assistance we're getting from them relative to the various programs that we're involved in. That's incredible. So.
And although we don't see Ryan anymore, he used to be here, at the front desk. I hear he's doing great work for us.
He's loving his job in operations. Can't make that guy stop smiling.
He's so positive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Really loving it.
Through there.
Just say one thing, just indulge me. So we were on and I think I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again, since we're on this subject. We were at one of our local tours, and at the reservoir, the one where those little things flew out.
The rhomboids.
Yeah, so I can't, citrus, right? Okay.
Yes,
So anyway, he was standing there. He wasn't talking to anyone. We were inside, and I said, "How are you doing, young man? You know, what do you think?" He goes, "This is so much." He says, "So much, and I don't really think I can do any of this. It's too much, right?" And I said, "No." I said, "Trust me, it's not. You know, 6 months and you'll get it." I said, "And we have a great staff." I said that this is a great industry. You should really consider. And he did. And so here's the point. And I learned this in workforce that sometimes you can have a 10-minute conversation with a young person and you can change their life for the rest of their life. And that was an example of that. You guys did it, but somebody had to put something in his ear to say, "Hey, I can do this." And I just, so when you see that, and you know, they say plant a seed and you thrive where you are. And that's exactly what we did with this young man. And I'm very, very proud of that. Thank you.
For sure.
Jose?
Yeah, on the fellowships, I do agree we should bump it up to 2. When I think about this, I remember the young fellows that talked about their testament or testimony of being in college. Some of them first time college students coming not understanding the water industry. I think it's impactful. I think one of the biggest things we could do is give back to our community, and this is one way of doing that. So I'm okay with that. Heather, on the STEAM, what has been our sponsorship there?
I think many years ago it was 10, then it went to 20 because I think coming out of COVID, they were struggling, if I remember right. And they need a little more financial support. So then it was 20 for a few years. And then this last year, I think we took it down to 15. It is, I would say it's growing. You know, I haven't talked to them about their sponsorship situation, but I know that the event is growing and it seems to be gaining more popularity. So I would expect that they have more sponsors. I feel like when we were at 20, we were filling a gap that was necessary.
Yeah.
And so I'm very comfortable going down to 10,000 and knowing that we were there when they needed us and we're shifting our resources to something else that we also believe brings a lot of value.
Okay, then I'm okay going back to 10. However, if we would want to go more, I would like to see them engage more schools to participate. I know it's very difficult, and I know this last one was very difficult. You know, things are changing, they need a teacher to stay there, and I know those difficulties, but I think that's where I would see if they get more schools involved, then it may be worth it to have the 15, but right now I'm okay with the 10.
Yes.
Also, one thing that's happening, there are more schools involved from outside services. And so they are picking up more sponsors from other places. So that would be appropriate to do both at the same time. Let somebody in Riverside County pick up sponsorships and we could back off a little.
Yeah.
The San Bernardino County schools still make up more than half of the schools there, but there's getting to be quite a few from the desert.
Yeah, I agree with that, Paul. And then I would like to shift those 5,000 to the miscellaneous to 20. So like that, we have more opportunities to like what Director Botello said. And then I have some sponsorship that, I've been discussing with staff where we could really, it's a win-win situation for both. So there's some that, again, I'll let you, bring them to you, Heather, and these opportunities and have those.
Through the chair.
I support that, Jose, because there is an organization that I want to join or want to consider adding, but I can't remember the name of it right now. So we'll talk later.
Yeah.
Go
no.
ahead, Gil, sorry.
No, I was just saying that I agree with Director Velasquez 100%. And sir, I think that this is really, you really have gotten your feet wet. I mean, you've been with you're one of the old member of the team now. I think, this is really your opportunity to look at your division and say, who support some of the good things that are happening there, because you're there, your boots on the ground. We're not. So I look forward to seeing what you want us to do. That would be
Appreciate
great.
it.
Thank you.
I have a question for you, Heather. What do you think, Dr. Alfred's response will be to adding two more?
I think she's going to be really
It's a
excited.
That's a serious question
No, I
because
think she's going to be very excited.
she's got a workload.
Yeah. I believe they have way more applicants than fellowships this year, so I think that'll be great. I know Mojave, and I forget what the other water agency has also started sponsoring fellows. So I think it's going to be a great opportunity, and we will start seeing those people get placed with water agencies for their first job, which is super
Right.
exciting. I also really like the idea of having tables and inviting guests. One reason that we historically haven't done that is just because staff we couldn't fill a table, but it's a great idea to invite people that we know and work with and fill that table. I think that's a good strategy as well.
Through chair.
Right.
Through chair.
I certainly support both of those requests. And I've just changed STEAM to 10,000 and fellowships to 141,000 and the miscellaneous to 20,000 on my little chart here. So is that pretty much everybody concur with that?
I just have a question for staff.
Yes, sir.
It's one thing for us to say, go get $40,000.
Yeah.
Is that possible?
I think that, yes, the funding part is fine. I would say if we want to sponsor two more fellows, it might not be exactly 40,000 because again, I don't know exactly how much the administrative fee is, whatever, but it's within that range and we can make that work within the entire budget. And actually, the direction that the board gives us today, we will make those changes and either you'll have the option to approve the budget today with the directed changes, or we could bring it back on July 7th, but we will change those numbers for the total amount.
Great.
Just one
Jose?
one final comment. I do support the Southern California Water Coalition event as well. So I think that's a very good
Good.
event.
All right. Any other comments on this? All right. Heather?
Okay, well, we are back to the summary. I wanted to wrap it up with a neat bow. Again, expected revenues, 53,891,100. Expected expenses, 51,115,800. With the allocation of the required WIFIA amount of $2,890,000 put into that reserves, that results in a net loss for FY 26-27 general fund budget of $114,700, which will be pulled from our reserve line item for new infrastructure. With that, I will once again remind you, you have two options. You can choose either one of these. You can either recommend that we bring a final version of that back at the July 7th meeting, or you can approve the fiscal year ending, the fiscal year budget, ending July or June 30th, 2027, as amended and directed to change numbers within this budget by the board and approve the agency salary schedule and job position salary range table effective July 4th, 2026.
Or fiscal year 20.
For fiscal year 2026, 2027. That was a mouthful.
So moved. The second.
We have a question first.
No, that's fine. I was gonna do a motion too. But
Oh, okay.
You're
Oh, I'm
approving
sorry, sir.
measure two?
Okay,
Yeah.
you two want to fight it out or?
Go ahead, sir. Move it.
Yeah.
I'll do the motion of number 2.
Arm wrestle for it.
Second.
The motion is to approve number 2
Yes,
and the second. Who's the second?
I'm the second.
Okay, all right. Great. Any other comments?
Thank you, staff.
Mr. Clerk?
Vice
we
President
have a
Mateo,
motion and
Yes.
second.
Director Keelhold,
Yes.
Director Longville,
Yes.
Director Velasquez,
Yes.
and President Harrison.
Yes.
The motion carries. Staff recommendation number 2 is approved.
Heather and Cindy, you continue to do an incredible job for us. And everybody that supports you doing that, we, our entire staff, it just never ceases to amaze me, the quality of our staff to a person. We just have the top people available, and it's just, and you show it all the time. It is wonderful to sit on this board and see what you do and how you support this organization and how what you do is so important to the success of this organization. And I personally, and as the board, thank every one of you for
It is the whole team that brings us together on this. They get these templates on budget about last March is when we started this. So here we are at the end of June.
Wow.
I think the stack of my drafts are just piling up in my office because I can go back and see, but I appreciate the whole team. You know, they get the information back. Heather has a red pen and she's not afraid to use that as she goes through and, you know, makes changes to it. So we sit in several meetings with that too, but it is definitely the team but then bringing it all together and getting it, I appreciate that.
I'll bet Matt got involved in that too, right?
Well, and it goes beyond this part too, as well as because now when we pay the bills, we need to match it up to this budget. And that's what then comes out on your budget to actual. So as Jose knows, being the CFO, it is not just for this meeting, it's the whole year process. So we appreciate that.
Thank you.
You know, you just look at the people sitting back there and how incredible each one of your departments are doing for us. I mean, it's just, I got to hear Joanne on Tuesday. She made a wonderful presentation. This lady right here in the middle just makes sure that everything appropriate is done on our tours. And besides that, she's just fun. Matt, it's nice to have you here and it's nice to see your nameplate on your desk where it should be.
I will also say the other ones that you see on screen are typing away upstairs and also joining to listen into this meeting. So they're multitasking and we appreciate them being able to listen to the comments of the board. It's really helpful. as we go
Absolutely.
forward.
Absolutely. I see Leo and Ariana and Andrea and et cetera. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You take it wherever the topic goes. You might, I don't know if it'd be beneficial to do a biennial budget.
Mm.
That's it.
Okay. All right.
I'll let Cindy think about that.
Yes, sir.
As I heard this morning, this morning, someone said, well, we do 2-year budgets, but we actually do it every year. And then I was thinking, I wonder why you do a 2-year budget then. So
Yeah.
we'll talk that over and give it some consideration.
Good. The next thing on our agenda is future business. Is there any future business? No? All right, then the next thing on our agenda is to leave the room. We're adjourned. Thank you again, everyone.